1, 2.
All right, you're good.
This is Live from the Table, a Comedy Cellar affiliated podcast. This is Dan Natterman. We're coming at you on Sirius XM 99, Raw Dog, and the Laugh Button Podcast Network. This is Dan Natterman. Noam is playing. Noam got a new mandolin. Noam Dorman, owner of the Comedy Cellar. He's also a musician. If you can, plays guitar, mandolin, some banjo. I guess he can do okay on the keyboards, but that's not his main thing. And we have Periel Ashenbrand. As far as I know, she does not play any instruments,
Does not.
but she has other skills. She's a writer. She is a cartoon producer. And, of course, we have Nikki Lyons, Nicole, behind the scenes, doing our audio and video work. Noam, that's a new mandolin you got. You told me your friend is going to sell you that mandolin?
My friend Daniel Kirsheimer, this was his grandmother's mandolin. It's like a 1923 or 4 Gibson F4 mandolin. It's a very important mandolin, Dan. It's very, very rare. This is from the Lloyd Loar era of Gibson.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but so he's
not quite as popular as the ones that have F holes. This has a round hole, but I kind of like the ones with a round hole.
Well, that means nothing to me. Okay, Noam, if you had to give up music, the cellar, or sex, what would it be? I'm saying you had to choose one. No, what am I saying? How do I phrase this? Yeah, you had to give up music, the Comedy Cellar, or sex. Which of the three would you give up? In what order?
Could I make the same money having sex as I make?
Yeah, let's just assume we'll hold income constant.
And I'm still married.
You're married, yes. Everything is the same, but you're giving up. But you can either give up the cellar, give up music, or give up sex with, I presume, your wife, unless you're having it with other people too.
Whatever I'm still having, I can continue to have.
Yes, this is not that complicated. I think
for you. I'm kidding. I would give up the cellar.
Obviously, that was so obvious that he would give up the cellar.
Okay, what if it's... Well, I guess that answers the question, yeah. Noam's music is obviously... All right, Noam, I think that's enough. I mean... Music is obviously Noam's number one passion, other than sex, apparently.
Wait, what about if you had to give up the podcast or music?
The podcast or root canal. Anyway, we have Richard Aronovitch will be joining us in a bit. He's not here. Now, by the way, Noam, I gave up a lucrative corporate gig because I'm booked at the Comedy Cellar Vegas in February, and I got a call for a gig for one night that pays twice as much. But this is not out of any loyalty. I just don't want to piss off Esty because she scares me. So I said I can't do the corporate gig.
But you couldn't resist telling us.
Yeah, well, why not tell you? Why not try to get some credit if I can? You probably wouldn't have minded.
Credit? I think you're an idiot.
You probably... No, she probably... All right, now.
Shut that bloody bazooki. You know that Monty Python sketch?
No.
Everybody at home, Google the Monty Python, shut that bloody bazooki. There's a scene in like a pet store or something, and there's just like dialogue, and there's bazooki music in the background.
I don't even know what bazooki means.
It's a Greek. I was like...
Oh, okay.
It just keeps getting louder and louder, and you think it's just background music, and then he turns and goes... It says, "Shut that bloody bazooki!" And it's hilarious. Anyway, you have to hear it to understand it. Maybe you can find that, Nicole. Go ahead.
He's been on that mandolin since
that is what
since
separates
Saturday or Sunday.
During the pandemic, I was going hard at guitar. Maybe I'll get back to it. I always say that, and I never do. There's something about some people just they don't give up with music. I guess they're born with this desire to be musicians, and that's, I think, what 90% of what separates the musicians from the non-musicians is the non-musicians just give up. I was not, I don't think, terribly untalented at it. I just don't have what it takes to stick to it for, 10, 15 years, however long it takes. Would you say that there's validity to that? No?
There's so much that you said there.
Basically, I just said it's the desire to put in the hours that really. There's the talent, of course.
Okay, you want the truth, right?
Yeah. Well, what do I care? Yeah, I have no dog in this fight.
I was pretty accomplished on the guitar, I have to say. By the I don't remember. We had that book with Phil Lopate. Remember he was here. He was my
Yeah.
6th grade teacher. He already written his book that I was. He says no. Remember he says no.
Younger than 6th grade.
4th, 5th, and 6th. I'm going to presume. I guess he wrote that was probably when I was in 5th grade. So I've been playing like a year and a half, and I was already playing. Like I was already like really playing.
I think also Noam's quite modest when it comes to
That sounded very modest. I know.
That didn't.
No, that didn't sound very modest. But
So
I
you're
think
saying that those with talent are more likely to stick with it because they see the progress.
exceptional talent.
No, I don't know about exceptional talent, but I'm just saying, like, first of all, when you're a kid, it's much easier to learn. I don't think I could have learned that quickly if I'd started now. And second of all, but it's not a matter of discipline. You just do it because it's fun.
Right, but not everybody finds it fun.
Right, but when you talk about having like to stick to it, like it's not you have. For you, it was like I need the discipline to do it. But for me, it was always just like, oh, I'm playing the guitar. It's awesome.
There was no discipline necessary because you enjoyed it.
Right, he's been obsessed with that thing since it showed up a few days ago. He hasn't put it down for
Well, that's
days.
not true. I just took it for repair. That's
Well,
why
but I mean, I
just got
saw
it.
you on Sunday, and
Right,
you were
and then I
attached
haven't
to
had it since Sunday. On Monday, I took it to the. I asked Tony to drop it off at the mandolin repairman, and I just got it back a few minutes ago.
Okay. Well, in the 2 times that I've seen you in the past 4 days, that thing has been attached to you.
It's deceptive.
Noam, can we talk briefly about the situation with Clips? That you were going to hire somebody?
Yeah, that's still in play. But I will tell you this. In lieu of that, we have a new policy now that in the underground, every comedian will get their set by email after their set, without asking.
Oh, okay. With no timestamp, I assume.
No timestamp if they don't want one.
Okay, so how do we let it be known that we don't want one?
You have to tell the engineer.
So whoever's standing by the.
No, Liz is going to make forms. Everybody's going to have to sign their signature that they don't want it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But as far as the show goes, can we implement a system moving forward of clips of how we should proceed?
She's talking, just to be clear, I'm talking about clips of us on stage doing our stand-up. Now Periel's talking about the clips of the podcast.
We can talk about that later. I thought you were talking about clips.
No,
of the
I was
podcast.
talking about clips of comedians because now, and we're going to be talking about this with Rich Aronovitch because he has an interesting story about how he became a, well, I wouldn't say TikTok sensation necessarily. I don't know.
Oh, I mean,
but
kind of.
He's done well on TikTok, but there's a little bit of a story behind that. But because that's how it's done nowadays. You put your shit on TikTok and Instagram, and
right. We're going to start having clips for the show regularly. Is that right?
I'm quitting the show.
No, you're not. You have no authority to make that decision.
It won't change whether we have clips or not.
Anyway, I thought Rich was going to come right away, so I really had no talking points.
5:45.
I had no pre-Rich talking points.
Well, do you want to talk about?
Well, I would like to talk about putting that mandolin down.
You said you want to talk about the San Francisco reparations?
Yeah, but I thought we'd talk about that with Rich.
Oh, what does he know about that?
Well, he doesn't know anything, but I'm sure he has. Once we explain it to him, he'll have a perspective on it.
All right. So what else is there happening what's happening in the world of comedy?
In the world of comedy, well, in the world of comedy, I'm not sure what's happening in the world of the Comedy Cellar.
I'm trying to open a new room.
Well, how's that? So, okay, so now we're getting somewhere. The new room. So you're ready to talk about it because you weren't.
I'm trying, Dan. I'm trying to get my hands on this new room.
Where?
It's very close.
Okay, close physically or close?
Mentally. Very close physically to the Comedy Cellar. And it's a big amount of money. It's more money than I've ever spent on anything in my life. And I'm 60 years old, so it's really for my kids. I mean, they can do it.
So you're planning to buy real estate, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying.
You're trying to buy real estate in which to put a new comedy club.
Yeah, and I think I'm paying more than it's worth. If it sounds to me, but it's worth more to me than.
So
it is to other
you're
people,
saying they accepted your offer?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay.
But I think I offered more than it's worth. I'm sure I offered more than it's worth. But, you know.
Why'd you offer more than?
Well, he offered what he. I mean, it was a bidding process, and you offered what you thought would win the. He has to beat the other offers, or he doesn't get the property.
Well, how do you know there are other offers?
I know. So, can I play the mandolin? So this is the thing.
Well, you can, but
We-
after the show.
We turn away. We turn away a lot of business, and so I've analogized that to oil and shale. You know, shale rock that we frack to get the oil out. So in the 70s, it was well known that we had more oil in shale in America than in the oil fields of Saudi Arabia. And we didn't have, at that time, we didn't know how to get it out. We didn't have the technology to get it out. And then once we developed the technology to get it out, as we have now, we became energy independent. So this is my dilemma with this business that we're turning away, is that all this oil and shale, it's worth a lot of money, but it's expensive to get it out. And so I might have to pay more than this building is worth objectively, because that's the only way I can get it out. And it's costs more.
Well, there's other potential venues.
Not nearby.
Okay.
And I think it has to be nearby, don't you?
Yeah, I think the whole idea is that if they come here and then they can't get into the main room, you send them around the corner.
Well, it's not just the people; it's the comedians themselves.
And
Like
the comedians, yeah.
the comedians don't want. Like it's nice; they could hang out in the olive tree. They could do spots at all the
Right, and
rooms.
then exactly.
It would be quite different if the other room was on, even as close as 8th Street.
Mhm.
That'd be a
It
totally
wouldn't be the
different
same thing.
It wouldn't be the same
thing. You can't run over there, do a quick spot, run back, eat something, get something to eat.
Yeah, leave my food here. I'll be right back for it.
Yeah.
So it's
So there's only so much real estate in the vicinity that's appropriate for a comedy club.
yeah, and I think it's a pleasant part of the culture here that all the rooms are right near each other. Right? It enhances the culture when the rooms right near each other. We know this now in retrospect. We weren't sure when I first opened the additional room, but now that it's a status quo thing, I think everybody likes the fact that there's spots all over. You come back to the olive tree, hang out, have a drink at the bar. It's kind of like you go to work at the cellar and you spend your evening, and then you go home, right? Traveling around wouldn't be the same. And then, of course, the drop-ins, the celebrity drop-ins, I don't know if they're going to want to go up to 8th Street, but they'll walk,
They'll walk down the block.
well, they already do the underground, so they'll go right next door to the whatever other place there is, or right around the corner, wherever it is.
Okay, so if they accept your offer, then you're doing it. Is that what you're getting at?
If they accept my offer, and I mean, there's a certain amount of I have to make sure it's not like on an Indian burial ground or something like that. I have to check a few things out, but yes, I think it is. Yeah, I did all the diligence already, basically.
But you're a little nervous because there's a ton of money. Now, how quickly would it be up and running if, say, tomorrow the offer was accepted and you took possession and ownership of the property? How quickly would we? And how many rooms and in this new venue would it be? One
room, and I think it'd be at least a year.
One room, and how many seats approximately?
I'm hoping 180 to 200.
And but a year to do the build out.
Yeah, it's gonna need significant renovation, even for something as that wouldn't seem to require much, like a comedy club.
Somebody's phone is ringing. Well, and you'd want to, I assume you'd want to do it right, obviously.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, well, that's great. I mean, again, and we've alluded to this before, but it's worth. I think anything worth discussing is worth beating to death. I'm not convinced that of how much benefit I'll derive from this. I'm certainly happy for you, and I guess anything that helps the Comedy Cellar brand is helpful to me. I'm not sure that I'll benefit greatly from it, but
You might not.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, isn't that I thought that was the whole reason why Noam was doing it.
Well,
for it to benefit
obviously
you.
not, but I have to think about when I think about it, before I get too excited, I
It's
have
definitely going to be good for Zarnagarg.
Okay. Well, no doubt it'll be good for Zarna. If I can squeeze out one extra set a week, I think that would be optimistic, but that would certainly not
That
be
sounds
that would not be
realistic.
nothing.
Yeah, it sounds realistic.
Because the thing is, I keep bringing in new people here.
Right.
And Noam actively, the other night, Noam gives me a list of people and says, what do you think of this person, this person? Well, I want to be honest with him and give my honest opinion, but of course I also want to say they're all horrible because, what do I want? Why do I want more competition? But Rich Aronovitch, how do you do?
Hi.
wearing a vintage Kodak film T-shirt.
ASA 400.
I guess they don't make it anymore, or if they make it, nobody uses it. But anyway, Rich Aronovitch is here. Hello, Rich.
Hello.
Hi.
Period usually sends me an intro, but I don't need one because I know you for a long time. You're a comedian. You're a TikToker. I think now is calling you a TikToker is a big part of who you are, showbiz wise.
Yeah, a lot has happened from TikTok.
And you are a Canadian.
I lived there for 10 months.
You were born in Canada.
I was born there.
And you moved to Nolans.
Yes.
And of
Are
course,
you quizzing me or are you telling me things?
I'm telling you, but not with 100% certitude. So I'm saying it with a slight interrogatory, whatever. But
Certitude, integrity. Okay, keep going.
But you have a green card.
No, I am a U.S. citizen.
You don't have a green? Wait, you're a U.S. citizen? Oh, you don't have a green card.
I had a green card.
You had a green card. Okay, now you're.
In fact, I lost that green card, and it was a big problem because I was in Israel at the time. And there was like embassy and calling and consul, and then I was in the beach with a young girl. I was a young guy, so don't get it twisted. And I just dropped all my stuff, and someone found it and returned it a few days later. Crisis averted.
Crisis averted. And, well, an honest Israeli, that's nice to hear.
She wasn't Israeli.
Okay. I told Perry we need more Gentiles on this show, but, you know, that's something to think about in the future.
More Gentiles always sounds good in theory, Dan.
So I want to talk about TikTok, if I could.
Sure.
Tell me.
I'm doing these crazy dances on TikTok.
Yeah, so you were just doing stand-up clips like I'm doing right now, currently stand-up clips.
So so during the pandemic, I did a lot of impressions, sketches, skits, and I was seeing what was going to stick because I had to do something. So one day, a friend of mine said, "You got to go on TikTok," and I was like, "What's that? I'm an adult." And I went on there, and all it was like, to me, all I saw was like girls with like bikinis dancing, doing like the same dance. I was
That's your algorithm.
All
I saw was political debates.
Correct. So the algorithm went, "You're a creep," and sent me this. So I put on a bikini and made fun of it, and it went nuts. So I continued doing it for a while, and then I put on like a bikini, and it was crazy. And then this woman, who I won't break her anonymity, she said, "Don't talk about me publicly," but I'll just say she gave birth to me. She said, "Stop doing this. It's mortifying.
Right.
Like, really, you look like a melted candle. It's embarrassing for our family, and like my friends are calling me, and it's like, I'm not kidding you."
I think I saw you.
Yeah.
Now that this is a couple years ago.
Yeah.
My daughter was watching the Renegade. You know the Renegade dance? Wait, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, I was gonna quit, and then I'm not making this up. My sister's dying, and we're in hospice, and instead of being scared and crying, we're laughing at your videos. And I said, okay, then I'm going to do this because it helps people. And that's what I just started doing. And then a lot of stuff has happened because of it.
Who did it help?
It helped the people that were grieving, that were about to experience death. And I get that all the time. My mom is sick and we're not worried. We're just laughing at your stupid videos kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, first of all, sorry about
how is that perceived from the point of view of the mom? Who,
in
all
other
of a sudden,
words,
the people who were really worried about her are now watching your dumb videos.
Those 15 minutes, they're escaping, and then they watch the next 15 seconds. You're right. I should have argued with them. I should have said, "Excuse me, how is this helping?"
When I'm dying, please don't post any fucking videos to help anybody not think about it.
So
right?
you're saying
they have their all the time after I die not to think about it.
You're saying your mother realized that you were helping people. And
no,
so
it took.
No, he didn't say that.
No, it did not say that.
That's what I heard.
You need more listening to. What my mom never got on board until I got on 2 TV shows and then I started making money. Once I started making money, I was like, "Say it, Mom. Go ahead." Because I kept saying, look, John Stamos is commenting and liking my videos.
Your mother loves Stamos.
She has no idea who he is.
Okay.
She went, "Who's John Stamos?" I'm like, "Okay." And then I was like, "Mom, I just danced at Madison Square Garden. What did they pay you?" "Okay, Mom." And then finally, once I was like, "Look, I'm gonna make this money working for this company." She's like, "Okay." I was like, "Say it." She's like, "I was wrong."
So you're saying you're making money dancing. You're not.
I'm not exactly making money. I do make a little bit of money from TikTok, but what I do make money for was people that I'm very strategic because I don't want to. I'm not want to whore out for everybody, but like if I believe in whatever they're doing or they have enough money, I'll whore out for a certain amount of money. You know what I mean?
Got it.
So then they'll pay me a bunch of money and it's an easy sell, right?
How much for a lap dance? Right here.
For you?
Yeah, for Dan.
Yeah, well, you own the club, so I'll do it for you. Dan, $2,000.
$2,000.
$2,000.
I'm almost tempted.
Are you gonna pay? You're gonna buy me a lap dance, but I don't want one.
That's not that wasn't in the equation.
You have to sit there and take it for the show, Dan.
Didn't you get hired to do some like crazy stadium?
Yeah, I was at Madison Square Garden with Fred Durst found me and was sharing my videos and I was like, hey,
is he the murderer?
No, he's the
Fred
lead
Durst
singer of
with
Limp Bizkit.
Isn't there a Durst who was a
That's
Willie Durst?
yeah. There's I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Ugh, come on, Google.
Well, so you. This is something, of course, you didn't anticipate, which is very often.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? I wasn't doing it to further my career. I was doing it to help the people that were sad. And also a lot of people during the pandemic on both sides were scared. So they hadn't, like, you know what I mean?
So, but does it help?
No, on both sides. I'm saying economically people were, because everything was shut down. And on the other people were, the other people were scared.
Is it helping your stand-up career at all, though?
Yes. Because what it does is it gets them into my world. Oh, I didn't know you were stand-up. Oh, get on my email list and people showing up to shows now.
Because what I have noticed with TikTok, and as I always keep you in mind, because the stand-up shit for me, at least for now, is not really working. There are jokes that I have that kill on stage. I have one particular joke about picking up a chick at the gym. It not only does it kill every time, it kills in front of all different types of audiences. So I mean, it's like I figured this joke has to go viral on TikTok. It works every single time I do it. It works well. It works in front of different audiences, and it gets nothing on TikTok. Even the joke that Louis went on a podcast and said, oh, one of my favorite jokes, Dan Natterman's joke about the sex education. So I posted that joke with Louis', the one you sent me, on my Instagram feed and on TikTok, and it didn't get really much of a response. It got a response on the Comedy Cellar Instagram page because the Comedy Cellar has 100,000 plus.
Yeah, but you got like 1,000 new followers.
Yeah, from you posting it on the Comedy Cellar.
It doesn't matter. So, but then they followed you.
Yes, but just posting it on my shit didn't really get anything.
So
in other words, even jokes that are tested, battle tested, are not getting response on TikTok.
Okay,
and
so there's a number of issues with TikTok and that. First of all, it is all dependent on what they decide to put on in the For You page. It has nothing to do with anything else. So they'll turn on the faucet. I'll have one video that will go 8.5 million, 5.5 million. There's not a lot. It has to be good, but it has to be a perfect storm. So they'll throw it out. They'll test it out to a X amount of people. If they engage from beginning to end, how long are these videos?
Usually a minute or less.
That's a lifetime for these. Have you ever looked over the shoulder of someone who's scrolling on Instagram or TikTok? It's like this. So they don't engage. You have to, like, it's nuts because you're up against, everything. So
maybe you should start a video. Wait.
Yeah.
Like that.
Like they try to do that. They're like, wait for it. Or
they do?
Wait for it's a big thing on TikTok.
So it's not, so, you have to detach from results. You have to go like, what makes sense? Like, why does it do better on Facebook versus Instagram versus TikTok? It doesn't make any sense. So if you can mentally say, I'm doing this for fun and because I like doing it and detach from results, that's the only way you can win. The other stuff is all
Dan can't say that about anything.
Say what?
Dan can't say that about anything.
No, well,
Dan can't masturbate for fun.
Well,
I wonder how this is going to affect my socks.
No, it is. I do enjoy creating, and I enjoy, I enjoy, artistically progressing, but one likes to see results as well.
Right. So you already know that the joke is funny. So here's my question: What are you doing it for? What's the point?
To grow an audience.
And why? Because you want to pack audiences?
Well, yeah, to advance, to perhaps.
Okay, so that's reasonable.
Fill a small theater. I don't know.
How often are you posting?
Say three or four posts a week.
That's good. Okay, so I would say the person to look at is like Jeff Akiri. That's because he's doing stand-up clips. I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. on Instagram. That's what I'm doing. He has flashy titles. You have to have titles because a lot of people do not listen. They will only read it. And you have to post consistently. for stand up.
Right.
Mine is
when you say
dumb.
titles, you mean captioning.
I mean captioning. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I do that.
Captioning.
Okay.
Right, but just for people listening.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and the it's a mental, because what happens is when your brain starts getting that dopamine from, oh my gosh, every time I open the app, it was over 99. It did people liking it. There's a dopamine thing, but it hits a certain level like a heroin addict. So you have to get to that certain number. So for me to get dopamine, it has to hit at least 6 figures. Mine are all over 10,000 each post, and it's nothing for me. It doesn't even move the needle.
That's how I feel about money.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Well,
No, but that's true.
But
When I was really broke, and then
Kidding.
all of a sudden you're like, you want me to go to for how much? Which 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm retiring. Now I'm like, are you kidding? I got a kid. You know?
well, it's like everything in the world. It's human nature. It's human nature is to get you. Look, the fact that we all have running water to somebody that doesn't, they must think we wake up every day singing, happy days or whatever. I mean, we have better lives than the Roman emperor had, probably. We have
Yeah,
it's the
I'm
fact
not-
that we have air conditioning and
Roman Emperor had running water. He invented
did he?
running water.
Okay. But you know what I'm saying. When you get whatever level you're at, that's the level that becomes the norm. You're used to it, and it's not exciting anymore. It's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not fulfilling. So you need something. That's human nature. That's why we're a miserable species.
But here's what I'll say the difference. I used to do all these videos to try to further my career,
Mhm.
and then I did them because I liked doing them. I had fun with them, and that ebbs and flows. But if that's really at the bottom, like I have to remember that, then that helps, because then everything else is bonus. You have to almost trick your mind to do that, because it's not in human nature, especially as a comedian, right?
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Oh, definitely.
All right. Well,
This business has no business calling itself a business.
oh well, that's an old Natterman quote.
That's an old Natterman quote.
That must have made you feel a little good.
What's that?
That he remembers an old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But again, I'm. You know how it is.
Did that help? Did I move the needle at all?
Well, I'm used to being respected by my peers.
And
So
isn't
that's the
is-
base level for me.
Right? Isn't that the most important thing? Isn't it like? Don't you look at a TikToker who, let's say, someone comes in the club and they're a TikToker, right? And their jokes are garbage. What do you think? I mean, real like how many like flash pan? You know what I mean? Like,
Do we have any TikTokers that come in here that?
if we did, I wouldn't name them.
Name names.
Rich Aronovitch.
We were talking about Noam before you got here, I think, or maybe you were just coming in. That Noam is scouring the planet to try to get new comedians in here. And the other day he gave me a list of names of people. He said, "What do you think?"
What was the name of that impressionist you said?
Oh, Matt Friend.
Matt
I
Friend.
know
You
Matt
know him?
Friend, yeah.
Is he good? What do you?
What do you think? I have job security. You think I want to threaten that? He can't host. No, I'm kidding.
Does he host?
Do I think he's good? I think he's a great impression. Listen, first of all, I would never suggest or not suggest somebody who isn't close. I think he's an amazing impressionist.
Yeah, he's.
I told him, he opened for me, and I told him, I said, you have to get on the internet right now and do your impressions and don't stop. And it will take you a minute, but you're going to catch fire. And he did.
He's just on Stern doing Stern.
So this
he's-
sounds like
he's
you
been
don't
on
think he'd be good at the cellar.
I didn't say that.
Well,
but
you didn't.
I-
Yeah, you didn't say it, but you had every opportunity to say otherwise, and you declined.
because I haven't seen a stand up. I haven't seen a stand up for years.
I'm busting your balls. I heard that he's very good. I'm gonna try to contact him.
I have his number. It's got 6 digits.
I have his number.
It's very strange. It's a French number.
Yeah, I mean, he's very, very young as well, so that I'm sure his future is bright, whatever the near term.
What I don't get is why a guy like that, who he had at the time that he does have good, I think he has some sort of agent or management. How is he not on SNL? He can do so many really good impressions.
Yeah, there's a lot of good impressionists out there, and Kyle Dunnigan has, which as you know is an amazing, and it's somebody that works here a lot, is a great impressionist. He's been a great impressionist for 20 years.
But he's also done like original character.
He never got on SNL.
But
So
I
I
don't know.
I
but
don't
did he get?
understand.
Did he get? I mean,
I think he had auditions. I'm pretty sure back in the day. Like the point is SNL can only hire a few people a year or every, and they're not always looking for impressionists. So like Tracy Morgan, I don't think is an impressionist, but they hired him. Pete Davidson's not an impressionist, and they hired him.
No, very few people in SNL are impressionists, but Daryl Hammond was. But
Yeah, they got like a couple impressionists and a couple of
Godfrey should have been in SNL. Godfrey may be the greatest impressionist I've ever seen.
yeah.
Wow.
For sure.
and he does it without even trying.
I mean,
Yeah.
Elon Gold is a great impressionist.
No,
No,
there's nobody
God, no one touches. I agree with you. Godfrey is, he is unbelievable.
Because you can ask Godfrey, do this person, something he's never done before.
Yeah.
He'll picture it in his mind, and he will do a top 5% impression of it.
Right.
Where like Daryl Hammond, who's a great impression, he would talk about working on a character for weeks and weeks in front of a mirror, recording like Godfrey.
Frank
does-
Caliendo was never on SNL. I mean, he was on Mad TV, but he was never on SNL. That's another example.
So I mean, so the point is that there's a lot of impressionists. They only hire however many they hire a year.
But there's
so
also other-
there are
there's-
people that aren't going to get on.
But there's also now other factors that have dictated their hiring. For example, they are now trying to satisfy the need for casting in that we need an Asian person.
Whoa,
We
whoa,
need a-
whoa, whoa, whoa! This
I'm
is,
sorry,
this
I'm
is our
saying truth.
non-political episode.
It's not political. It's just fact. They had some pushback, and then the next hires were all like, this was the gay Asian guy. I forgot his name because I have no brain cells left.
Bowen Yang or something like that.
Yeah. They did it like sort of like all of a sudden it was a very multicultural casting. That's just the way casting is done right now.
I thought I thought they just hire the best people.
No, they didn't. Well, in my opinion, in my opinion, they reacted to an article that came out, and that next round of hiring was specific to that.
Are you telling me that they would be casting for a show and would not hire the best people for the show?
I feel like you're.
I
being
think Norman's being
sarcastic.
sarcastic. I think.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think he's being
That can't be
sarcastic.
good for business.
No,
and their ratings stayed the same. Their
But
ratings.
no, you tell me.
Hold on a second. And their,
It's an
ra-
institution. I don't
and
think
their
it
ratings
matters.
are good this season.
I haven't watched it for. a
Let's
long
look up
time.
their ratings this season. Go ahead, Dan.
No, now you're in a similar position. You hire comedians.
And don't you hire some comedians based? We need a female. We need a this. We don't need any more Jews, but we need. Is Matt Friend a Jew?
Yeah.
Get him out.
Yeah, I think he is.
We need an impression. You know what I'm saying?
No, we don't do that.
You know?
Well, but no, if I know you say you don't, and I believe in a way that you don't, but I also believe that if everybody was a white guy working here, you would make a little bit of an extra effort to try to diversify a little bit because you know that the audience wants to see diversity, and you want to please
I think
the audience.
there's something fair to saying there's you want to have different perspectives and different things.
Right.
Right.
Yes, and it's fun. Zarna is not only is she good on her own right, but it's fun to hear from a Indian woman perspective, not just because it's funny, but because I haven't heard that before. So when I hear
Right. It's a different
it's
sort
something
of.
in and of itself.
That's something else.
But that means that diversity can be in certain situations an advantage in and of itself.
If Zarna's going on and she's killing, which she does,
Mhm.
killing, then
But there's more
then
to it than that.
then there's nothing else to talk about.
No, but
Then-
there is something
Correct.
to talk
No,
about.
then there's no
because
re-
the audience is not only laughing, but they're
No, but-
enjoying the different point of
but
view.
how could you suspect that I hired her? 'Cause
I don't
she's
suspect
Indian
that. I suspect that
when
No,
she's killing.
I don't think
No, no,
that's what he's saying.
that's
I
not
think
what
what
I'm
he's saying.
saying. I'm
It's a
saying
bonus.
it's a
that
bonus.
that she has a different perspective.
And-
She's female.
and
She's
Jocelyn-
Indian.
and
She's
Jocelyn,
middle-aged,
she
whatever.
is a
Or not
bonus.
middle-aged, but she's
And Jim Norton, even though he's a white
now
male,
that he's trans.
but he's a trans. The fact that Jim Norton's up there
Trans
talking about
lover.
trans women.
A trans. I don't mean lover.
Girlfriend.
Like
It's
a
girlfriend.
trans, like a lover, like
A transophile.
Mr. Lover. Yeah.
The fact that he's doing that, the fact that Keith Robinson is talking about having all these different points of view. So I don't have to hear yet another joke about my kids or the airlines, whatever.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Dan.
It is a bonus.
I'm
And-
gonna answer you.
Okay.
Diversity is a beautiful thing, very American thing, and very sentimentally satisfying when it happens naturally. It's it makes you very patriotic to look out on a situation and see people of all different stripes of life, all in the same undertaking together, all there because they naturally congregated based on their talent and ability. That kind of diversity is very, very beautiful.
Mhm.
And I like to think that's the diversity which we represent here. There's another kind of diversity which you see all the time where where it's glaringly obvious what's going on, and that the diversity is a pretense for corporate hiring in order to preempt and inoculate themselves with certain criticisms or whatever it is. And once you know that that's the story behind it, in my opinion, it's no longer beautiful.
In other words, if there's two people who are equally talented and you pick the one that's quote unquote diverse, fine.
Well, there's never two people who are equally. You always have think one person is better than the other. But I'm saying, it's like I play music. I have my bands of it, black, white, blah, blah. It's never in music. Nobody ever hires anybody for their race.
That's different. That's different.
And musicians music is very diverse.
But that's different from comedy, where the very fact that Zarna is Indian, that Jocelyn is Asian, plays a role in the kind of comedy that they're doing, so that I, as an audience member, okay,
It's the same thing in music.
I've heard comic A talking about whatever they're talking about, but it's fun to hear somebody talk about something different. So there's a little something.
But
Right,
I don't
so-
think it's fun unless that person
the person's gotta be
is
good.
amazing, right?
The card's got to be good,
Right.
but
So that's number
it's
one.
not like it's not like
I'm just making a point. Like if you come to a playground and see beautiful children,
Mm-hmm.
you say, "Wow, there's a lot of beautiful children. Look how beautiful this is."
no one loves to go to playgrounds.
But
with
if you
beautiful
know,
children.
and I don't mean, if you come to the playground and you know that the Nazis have filled the playground with beautiful children, you say, "Oh my God, this is a little." I'm not comparing anything to Nazis, but just like if you know that it didn't happen naturally, then if you start to think about it, to me, it's kind of a turnoff because it's
listen-
almost the opposite. It's like you haven't accomplished anything. Actually, you haven't fixed society.
But the audience,
You've just manipulated a cosmetic picture of something, and actually over the long term, you're actually turning people against it because
Yes.
we all know that people made snide remarks about this. The most liberal people I know make snide remarks about this stuff all the time.
I think
I did-
the market for, like, I have, the market for a long time for, if you were black, your auditions were homeless man number 2, prisoner number 3. And eventually they went, wait a minute, there's more representation that needs to happen. I think the market overcorrected.
Well,
And
let-
now we're going, oh, we have to put in someone who's black and Asian
well, let
and
me ask you a question. but
Filipino and
let's pull all together.
Scandinavian.
What if the TikTok algorithm
Mhm.
gave special pushes to videos of color?
Hold on, I'll answer that because I was doing
I
I
asked
was
you.
doing a great thing and I was doing impressions and I would look it up and I fooled the algorithm to think that I was like super. So I'm not really political, but I was looking for speeches and stuff. So all of a sudden I was getting a mass amount of conservative emails and about my guns. I don't have guns. What is this? And white lives matter. What is this? So what the algorithm did is it went, oh, this is a mark, and they started sending me stuff. So the algorithm absolutely does try to do bias based on what they think you're into.
Well, that's on a subject matter, but I'm saying like
But looking up Trump does not mean I have guns. But the algorithm assumed I did.
no,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah, but I'm just saying like if they amplify certain things, not based on what they like you said they sample test it, and if it shows engagement, then they amplify it, right?
Well, no, I uncorrected it because I started looking up the other so I would completely
I'm
mix it
not-
up. So I was like, I scrambled it.
I'm not sure Noam gets what I'm saying.
I'm not sure you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. Look, if we're hiring lawyers and race doesn't enter into the equation, but we're talking about show business where different points of view are a variety of perspectives in comedy is a good intrinsic positive thing.
I think, yeah. I think
You know, if
I'm
I-
saying is they
yeah,
have to be good first.
But that's
they
not what he
happen
was
to
saying.
be.
He was saying that SNL is hiring people based on.
I didn't say they're hiring based on. I said that the next round of hires definitely reacted to criticism.
But
I'm
you
not
also
saying it was
implied
based on.
that they weren't that good.
But then we were
I
talking
didn't say
about
they weren't
your,
that good.
but
You
then we
applied
were
it.
talking.
I said I never watched it. So how could I
But
know? I
then
have
we
no-
were
I have
talking
no
about
bias.
your hiring or your comedian hiring practices, and you said you don't look at race, color, or creed. And I don't know if that. I think you might want to because I think the audience wants.
But
variety.
hold on, it's naturally
think the
already there.
audi-
They have
They
diverse
have
shows.
it. I know, but I'm saying the audience benefits from that because the audience wants to see different points of view.
if the audience likes it, they like it. That's how we
the
audition people.
audi-
If the audience likes them, they like them. If they don't like them, they don't like them.
But they're not.
I'm never going to say they don't like them, but they're
not
Chinese, so I'm
but
going to
it's
put them
not.
on anyway.
It's not in a vacuum that they like or don't. They might love comedians, but they don't want them all on the same show if they're all going to be talking about similar things, even if they're all great comedians.
Yes.
You have to look at the show as a whole and to see not just if each comedian is great, but if each comedian is great working
So are you saying
together.
I can say to SD, SD, I think there's too many black people on this show.
Oh, you can't say that.
That's what you're saying.
Can you say there's too many white people on the show?
Well, he's saying that, but I'm saying, well, it's like, okay, well, how far? Where do we draw the line here?
I mean, look, there's another club that does.
All I can say about the Comedy Cell, I'll let you finish, is that
Okay.
it all seems to be working out fine. Our shows are very, very diverse. We have gay people, trans people, black, white. We have everything on the shows. And,
You don't have enough Filipinos.
Not enough Filipinos. And, although from time to time we do get a complaint, there's not enough women. So sometimes just not enough women around. Sometimes there's plenty, but, the people who saw the show that had like only one woman, they don't know that the previous show might have had 3 women, whatever. That's we get that complaint from time to time. But what can we do about it? We put on,
I think that's the other thing is like people that want to be upset will be upset.
Well, what's interesting is that there's a lot of people out there like Periel, and they really think like, this dude must hate women. Like, I didn't see enough women on the show.
I only think that because I know you.
Yeah. I didn't see enough women on that show. And it's just clear to me that these misogynistic club owners,
Right.
they have some woman that she would kill, but they're not putting her on because they hate women. It's so, like,
I think
do
it's
they
who
really
thinks
think
that?
that happens?
Who says that?
No, I'm saying that's the...
and what the fuck is that like Periel?
Because that's the implied. Because you would believe that about.
Because you're a woman, so you got to be thinking that.
Because if you heard that women are underrepresented in, I don't know, flipping burgers or whatever it is, you would be very easily convinced. Oh, there must be some misogyny going on there. But like anybody else. But when you actually are in the industry and you realize, oh, I can't really explain what's going on, but. There's just not the same number of women around.
So
Can I say something? It's okay. So when Jessica Curson did her documentary, it was eye-opening for me in that about 100% of them had been sexually assaulted, right? Which I never would have thought of that.
100% of women.
Of women comedians.
Yeah, yeah.
At some point, some creepy comedian.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievably.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, they must be asking for it.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying as a perspective from someone who's not well-versed in the art of sexual harassment and assault, it was completely like shocking to me. So I couldn't have that perspective because I am not a female comedian.
Yeah.
But then it sort of shined a light on it, which are going, oh, wow, that must really suck.
don't-
Or like, I don't know what it's like to be totally petrified to take the subway past 10, a certain time.
Hold up. I'm not saying that there's not issues about the way females are treated in the industry. Far be it from that. I'm sure there are. I'm just saying that when people think that I or we as booking the Comedy Cellar show are somehow implicated in all that, saying we are choosing the best show from the people we have. That what's happening to women?
Your booker's a woman. I mean, it's crazy.
Woman. My wife's a woman.
Yeah. Well,
You can say that now.
She-
You used to be that. Yeah, you can't.
she identifies as a woman. Yeah.
Hey, women, my wife's a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but sometimes people weaponize like
What do you mean? But wait a second.
some people will weaponize these things. Like what happened to Aziz, I thought someone weaponized it and used it against him. When there's legitimate Me Too issues, this person went, he didn't, and it seemed like it was weaponized against him. That's the problem. So
I do suspect. I do
you.
suspect, and I do suspect. We talked about this before. And I don't know if we're gonna try. I suspect that stand-up comedy is a little different than other aspects of show business that women getting involved in, and I suspect it for this very, 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 very simplistic reason, which might actually be legit, which is that growing up, how often was the class clown a woman?
Correct.
I think there is something about stand-up comedy, which at a very early age,
Yes.
it may change as they get older, it is the kind of thing which the boys just do.
Yeah, it's
That's different than being funny.
Right.
It's different than writing funny. It's different than all sorts of other things that because people I think wrongly think that the key factor of stand-up comedy is the sense of humor. It is not. It's this urge to be the clown on stage. That really is. I know so many funny people, funnier than most of the comics I know. They have no interest in being stand-up comics. It is, and they might not even be good at it. There's but you hear over and over that these stand-up comics, they were the class clowns in school.
Well,
But I would
were
argue
the
that
funny guys.
that actually is rooted in patriarchy because girls are not supposed to act like that. It
Maybe,
is really
maybe.
frowned upon, or it was. I mean, perhaps that's changing.
I think there's a component of that. There might also be a component of just the male desire to be front and center.
No, I don't.
I mean, listen.
No, we're supposed to be.
Ariel is only willing to believe bad things about men. She will never believe anything. She will not
My
believe anything about women.
husband is a man.
I know. If you
This
say
week.
if you say that men, little
It's
boys,
ridiculous.
toxic
Stop.
guys, little boys are
It's
difficult.
bullshit. Stop. Really, it's ridiculous what you're saying. That's
I-
not
I-
true,
I-
and you know it's not true.
What's not true?
That I only want to believe bad things about men.
Okay,
it's
but
just
Carol,
easier for you to make
we have
your
little
point.
boys and little girls we've hung out with together.
Yeah.
Isn't it painfully obvious the little boys are just different than the little girls?
Most of the time, yes.
Well, most of the time is enough to create a disparity. Not 100% of the
but
time.
like you're
if it's
you're-
only 60-40, then all of a sudden you'd see a disparity.
okay, but what about women in tech, for example? I think that your argument doesn't hold for something like that because we've.
I'm not talking about tech.
Oh, I'm just using that as an example.
I don't know about tech. What is that?
Well, that women have been historically, extremely underrepresented, and it's not for lack of intelligence or ability.
I don't know what the reason is, but maybe it's for lack of interest. I don't know.
Here's a question.
Nobody's refusing to let them major in whatever they want to major in. Good.
So, like, if you look at, let's say, desirability, right? The number one thing a lot of women say, "I want a funny guy." How many guys say, "I want a funny girl"? Very few. Very few,
With
right?
big tits.
Yeah. A great ass and a sense of humor. Yeah, very few.
I think David Tell has a joke on it.
Yeah. So there's something to the idea that, listen, it was for years the conditioning was hide behind the fan, be meek, do the thing. Now have things changed tremendously. I'm doing stuff as a father my father never did. Never.
What? Like what?
Changing diapers, feeding my kid. My dad was working. Hello, son. Kiss. Good night.
I wouldn't blame
kiss.
society.
well, you got a kiss.
You just had a
but-
shitty dad.
Okay, well,
My
No,
father changed my diapers.
No, come on, Noam. You know that parental roles have changed over the. I mean, it used to be the men didn't even go into the delivery room.
You know what? That should come back.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Going in the delivery room is nothing.
But what I'm saying is that there is. I was celebrated as the class clown, and my sister, who was I think as funny as was shunned and was told no, that's bad, and people didn't react to her. They didn't celebrate her
fair
in the
enough.
same
That's
way.
what Periel said.
I'm not saying that is not necessarily a genetic
I-
component. I think that's a
Look, all of this is
I'm
interesting.
sure there
conditioning.
is. I'm sure there is components from a societal point of view, but I don't rule out just the intrinsic male desire to.
But I'm saying, like,
To be
we've
the
had
class
years.
guy. I
We're
don't-
way
hold
ahead.
on,
hold
We're
on.
way ahead because we've had years of that celebrating, and only till recently have we seen. Okay, now all of a sudden there's an uptick in female.
But as a kid, some of the great female sketch artists like Carl Burnett and Lucille Ball.
you can
and
name them
Phyllis-
on one hand.
But these were
No, these were
Titanic figures.
dominating. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Lucille Ball.
Well, Lucille Ball.
Phyllis Diller. Keep going.
Lucille Ball at that time was there
The best.
was there anybody else in the sitcom world at her level? In other words, she was like number one. So it wasn't just that she was a token; she was number one.
Some of the great comic actresses have been women, for sure.
Absolutely.
Many of them.
For
But
sure.
All I'm saying, all this stuff is interesting. Some of it is not yet known. As Dan said, it could be partially a disposition. It could also be partially societal, holding people back. I think it's ridiculous to think that men and women are exactly the same. I think clearly they're not. But having said all that, all I'm trying to say is that from the point of view of the guy who owns the Comedy Cellar, everything we're discussing now has happened 25 years ago to the people who are now of age to be comedians at the Comedy Cellar.
Do you feel like there's more?
And I can't change that now.
Right, but do you feel like how long has the Comedy Cellar been around?
83.
82.
Okay, so do you feel like there's more female comics now than in the beginning?
There were a lot of female comics back then. I don't know.
Or black comedians? or Asian comedians.
The one thing that's for
Well,
sure,
there's
Or
Asian-
Zarna?
we have 2 Asian comedians now, so it's doubled.
the one thing that's for sure is that comedians are older. Can we?
Comedians are older. There's more Asian comedians. There's more. There really was only one Asian comedian back, Phil Nee. I don't know if you've heard.
There's
of it.
Margaret Cho.
No, this is before even Margaret Cho.
It was Phil Nee, Henry Cho.
There were no, I don't think, East Indian comedians.
No East Indian comedians. So but obviously it's changed as America's changed. America used to be 90% white, and now
Right.
It's much less white. So of course that's changed. So in other words, that's not.
So that was
don't-
90% white. That was the representation in
But,
90% white.
but the people will make the very bad comparison of saying, well, back in the 80s there was only this. It was this percentage white, and now so we must.
That's not really. Yeah, it's not really fair because there wasn't that many comedians.
That's not but
Yeah.
that's not necessarily progress because it might be just as representative of the demographics now as it was then.
Has the American,
You understand my point?
has the population
Can't-
shifted that greatly since the
Enorm-
80s?
Enormously, yeah, enormously. So, and especially in New York, I mean. But anyway, well, that's about it. I mean, I just think that
The point is Matt Friend's not getting in. That's the point.
Well, take a look at Matt. He's a good guy, and he's a great
No, I'm
impressionist.
kidding.
On a somewhat related note, I don't know if you want to talk about San Francisco and reparations.
sure.
Well, apparently San Francisco. You might know more about this than me, but apparently San Francisco is considering. I can't imagine it would ever happen in a trillion years, but they set up a committee to investigate the possibility of reparations for San Francisco residents,
Well,
and to the tune of $5 million per person if they qualify. And
they have to live in San Francisco for 13 years, but it's also give them a certain amount of income for 250 years. I mean, first of all, it's the first draft by some committee.
yeah, I don't know who's on the committee and to what extent
Representations
I don't know,
for
but I'm sure
whom?
there's a lot of Jews.
for
Go
black
ahead.
for blacks
For blacks.
in San Francisco.
Yeah,
And the number they came up with was $5 million a person, which obviously is not going to happen. But for anybody, they got to be like a resident of San Francisco, a descendant of slaves, whatever the criteria are.
San Francisco. Did California have slaves?
No, but they have descendants of slaves.
I see, but why would California pay the?
Well, there's a list of criteria, and it says you got to.
No, I'm saying that the guilty party pays the reparations. The United States of America is a guilty party here in this story, and various state governments that had Jim Crow are guilty parties. The state of California is paying reparations. The very word means that they're making amends for something they've done. What did California do that they're paying reparations?
Well,
for? They didn't have slaves.
They didn't have slaves, but they did have apparently certain policies in effect, I guess.
So then why would it have to be descendants of slaves?
Well, that's one of the criteria that they're using in the draft resolution. Which
It doesn't really
I
make
think
sense.
part of it is they have to hire a certain amount of people at SNL. That's pretty good.
Dan-
I think I'm bitter. I
Dan
never
didn't
got
like
never
that.
got my audition. I think I'm.
But yeah, so a lot of things are never going to happen. There was another thing. What were we just seeing?
But on principle, I mean, $5 million is a pretty high number. But
Sheila Jackson Lee just proposed a bill in Congress that would create a new crime of conspiracy to commit white supremacy or something like that. But the definition was astounding. It would be that if you are planning to commit a hate crime, and you happen to read something that somebody tweeted, which can be construed as supporting of a replacement theory or some kind of thing, the person who wrote the tweet will now be guilty of a crime if someone else read it and committed a hate crime and said that somehow they were inspired by what you wrote.
I mean, this is as old as pornography causes rape. Or,
well, it may
you know,
it may
I'm
well.
not sure it
or
doesn't.
video games cause violence.
Well, but it's
Better
worse than
example.
it's a free country, and one of the bedrock principles has been that you can think and write whatever you want. As a matter of fact, it wasn't that long ago. It's related when the state of the art of liberal thought was like the Nazis have rights; they should be able to march. The Nazis can do whatever they want, right?
Well, you can't yell fire it's free speech to an extent.
You can't incite violence.
You can incite
or-
violence. So maybe that's what it speaks to. Now, the Nazis do have absolutely a right to march. I don't like it, but they do have a right to march.
Yeah, and people have a right to It's a ridiculously anti-constitutional law.
And black people have a right to February. Anyway.
It
Okay.
violates the Constitution. But just this. And by the way, what's interesting is that on top of the ridiculousness of it, and on top of the ridiculousness of trying to define, you know how many conservatives or Republicans are accused every day of being, white supremacy adjacent or Tucker Carlson is spouting out replacement theory, and quite often they are, but this is not a crime. But on top of that, she didn't even have the I don't know what the word is, the sophistication to write a bill which would make this a crime no matter which group was targeted. In other words, anybody who commits a hate crime and can then point to somebody who wrote something hateful. No, it's only if somebody commits an person of color or black crime and can be pointed to white supremacy. So presumably if a black person read some black Israelite spouting off about how the Nazis are great or whatever it is, and that black person then killed a Jew, that would not be a crime. That the law wouldn't apply to that identical situation.
Is this a bill somebody proposed?
Sheila Jackson Lee proposed it in Congress.
I mean, how likely is it that this
Zero.
But the reparations thing, it looks like some variation of it could happen. I don't think it's going to be $5 million a pop, but it does look like they're very serious about reparations in San Francisco.
On the subject of reparations, which you can make I think you can make the case for certain living people who lived during Jim Crow that they're entitled to reparations. Having said that, you could just imagine it, like if the United States wrote a check for $500,000 to everybody black. And I think we could maybe afford that. We didn't do probably much less than that during COVID in terms of writing a check to everybody to 300 million people. I don't know. I don't know the math, but let's just say, wouldn't you expect things to get much worse? Like people would just be like, you got your money. I don't want to hear any more out of you. You got reparations, right? It's even, Steven. Leave us alone with your... I think it would really be bad for race relations and cause tremendous resentment. That's not to say they don't deserve it or do deserve it. That's a whole other debate. I'm just saying the consequence of making one segment of the population rich has not been sufficiently thought through. There is a psychological reaction that's going to happen to something like that. And it's not going to be pretty. That's just my opinion.
Well,
and it's not enough to say it should be or shouldn't be. I'm just saying
a lot of people are already saying, we've had enough. We don't want to hear any more from you. So
I mean, this is...
I don't know if that would, what impact that would have.
Oh, big. Very big, in my opinion.
Look, I can't speak for another perspective, like I was saying before about being a female comedian. I can't speak for the perspective of what it's like. All I can see the little micro doses of, I was, hanging out with Dean Edwards and we saw this guy muttering the N-word under his breath like it was 1940 or 50, and it was insane to me. And then Dean and I talked about...
Was he a homeless guy?
No. It was just a normal... We were on a cruise together, because God hates me. And we were... we were having... And if you don't know, Dean is one of the most lovely human beings on the planet. Absolutely just a gorgeous human being in every way. And we're just talking, and
he does a mean Denzel impression.
But even if he wasn't a decent human being, it's still...
Even still.
Yeah.
I mean, just, it wasn't like...
I kind of didn't like that disclaimer, but go ahead.
No. In other words, it wasn't like there was a there. It was simply the color of his skin. There wasn't a, he's acting in a way that could be construed as anything other than we're sitting there and he's just having a nice meal. And this guy's muttering the N-word. He wasn't yelling and screaming. He wasn't playing loud.
This was
whatever the complaints
are.
Passenger? Passenger.
But it must have been Carnival Cruise.
No, it was. I won't say it, but it rhymes with for region. Anyway, so we started talking about it because I grew up where David Duke got elected, the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, and I knew if I heard a thick New Orleans accent, at some point I would hear the N-word. I would count the seconds before I'd hear it, real racism, real racism. And he told me gets pulled over. He has to have his keys outside and his hands on there, and he has sit down with his daughters on how to behave and how to act. I have no perspective on that. That never crossed my mind. All I'm trying to do is get out of a ticket. He is literally afraid for his life. And I'm not saying that's all cops, and I'm not saying that's all, but that is a reality of our so I can't speak to what it's like, how there has been, systematic rape, but it's not. My issue is it goes to black people. There's also been the Italian immigrants have a story, the Irish immigrants have a story, Native Americans have a story, Chinese people. Everybody has a story. So to your point of, well, what does this do? Because, well, they were giving them 500. Well, what about the Native Americans? Casinos aren't enough. We got to give them some. What about my grandparents?
No.
You know what I
Your
mean?
grandparents don't get anything.
Yeah, nothing.
No.
You
can't. Native Americans, maybe you can compare. I mean, obviously, Native Americans have their own. Of course, you can compare. It's just different. But other immigrants don't have.
Holocaust survivors. We got Israel. Let's move on.
No, America took black people as slaves.
Correct. Ripped them out of tribes.
But no, I shouldn't say that, because actually America took some, but mostly America didn't take the slaves. America kept the slaves, but the slaves were here before America's founding. But whatever it is, America had slavery. But even more, maybe culpably, America maintained Jim Crow into the modern era.
There was segregation in the 60s. Our grandparents' age have segregation in the 60s.
Right, but what I'm saying is that when America had slavery, it was the norm of the world. And there is something that is, somewhat true about the argument, is saying that it's difficult to pretend that America has some unique history when it comes to its attitudes about slavery in the 1600s, 1700s, because this was the way the world works. But by 1950, and America's having black people ride on the back of the bus and in shitty schools and different water fountains and all that, at that point, and all the laws are enforcing it, and we've already fought a civil war. I think that, I'm not saying it hurt more than slavery, but I'm saying it's in a way more outrageous. In a way you would say, you know what? I don't know if George Washington should be paying reparations, but you motherfuckers in 1950, you probably should be paying reparations. It's much closer in time. A lot of you are still alive. The people you did it to are still alive, or one generation removed. We're not going back hundreds of years, and you knew better. You can't hide behind the things that people were hiding behind in the 1700s and the early 1800s. So anyway, America's history vis-a-vis Jim Crow in a certain way is even worse to me than slavery, without saying that Jim Crow is worse than being a slave. I'm just saying in terms of what they did and what the excuses would be. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's a strong argument for a 70-year-old person or 80-year-old person who was.
Well, what about an 80-year-old person's legal heirs? So now you're getting into people that are much younger.
Yeah, that's more complex. I don't know.
I mean, it's hard.
I never thought the arguments about reparations were ridiculous, even when I was a young kid. They're challenging. They're challenging arguments.
I mean, it's very hard because we're three white dudes talking about.
No, it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of logical arguments.
Perspective. I agree with you. I'm just saying perspective-wise. I grew up with certain privilege that black people did not grow up with.
Yeah, but that's not an argument for reparations.
Well, yes, but there is something to be said that there is a system that is tilted in my favor, for sure.
Well, is it tilted in your favor now? You started out by saying that it's tilted against you because
I didn't say it's tilted
SNL's.
I didn't say it's tilted against me. I think you're reading. I said they reacted. I said they reacted to. I said the market corrected itself.
Do you think it's tilted against white male comedians right now?
I don't think it's.
Why are you blinking?
Because it's a complicated subject. Because on one hand,
you think it's tilted or not?
Do I think it's good to be a white?
Every comedian I speak to tells me it's tilted against them now.
Yeah,
every white comedian.
I don't think it's great to be.
We had a comedian on 2 weeks ago. So he has a lawsuit because his age. I don't want to say them. His age.
But he said it on the show.
Who?
He said it on the show.
Tyler Fisher. His agent or somebody he was speaking to, he said it to
It
him.
was his agent.
Said that they're not hiring. They're not hiring any white
Yeah,
comedians.
we
now.
hear it all the time.
And then he says, "Would you repeat?" He recorded. Would you repeat that? And he recorded him saying it. Now there's a lawsuit going on. So that and you said you hear it all the
Remind
time.
me not to talk to Tyler.
So now you say we hear it all the time. So now is it tilted against you?
Like I said, I think the market overcorrected itself, and I think it will balance out. I think right now it's not great to be. It's not great to be. I don't know. It doesn't. Listen, I was hear certain things that are going. Hey, listen, we're looking for diversity.
Yeah.
And I'm going. Well, wait a minute. I'm being lumped into something I'm not. I'm technically an immigrant who grew up in the South. I'm Jewish and with Holocaust survivors. Is that not diverse? That's not diverse. Well, now we're making it a
white.
broad. Yeah, I'm looked at as white. That's
But
not,
you are white. You're not white.
Well,
I'm like I said. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not
but if he-
January 6th white.
if he came in here and instead of Rich Aronovitch, his name were Muhammad El Shabazz, and he looked exactly or Muhammad whatever. If he was in Arabic, if he was Lebanese,
Yeah.
would you still say he was white? And he looked the same because there are people
To
from
his face.
I mean, look, I could play Greek, Italian, Arabic, Israeli, etc., etc. I have enough melanin and darkness plus this.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Right?
You're right. You're right.
Anyway,
But the thing is, the bigger the thing that I find difficult is I go, it does create resentment when you're told something I can't help, which is my skin color or my age. I can't that I cannot help, and I feel resentful when I'm told we can't hire you based on your skin color, your age. Now I said again, I understand the correction of the market because there was underrepresentation for so many years, but I think it'll balance out. I think eventually people will get kind of like, no, we want a meritocracy, and it will naturally become
meritocracy.
Thank you. It will naturally become diverse.
I like meritocracy.
I like
that.
meritocracy.
Rich,
I like
rich,
misspeaking.
rich merit.
Right? I think it'll, like you said, just like your shows have become naturally diverse based on the way that.
Our shows were actually always diverse. But let me ask you
That's
this
what I'm
question.
saying. It wasn't. You weren't hiring based on where some clubs literally have casting. We need to have a female. We need to have a person of color, and we need to have that sort of thing.
I would say that there's a tremendous amount of laughter in Shale. To go back to our earlier, there's a tremendous amount of laughter for somebody who writes the first comedy routine, just skewering. Maybe it's been done already. This diversity that we see in commercials now, like we've all seen it, right? Like the way they cast commercials for industries that look actually nothing like the way they present the commercial. It's astonishing, right? And like this is not lost on anybody. I'll also tell you a funny story, just sort of related. My daughter, you know what? I shouldn't even tell the story. Never mind. Go ahead. Never mind.
Please.
My daughter says something very sophisticated.
Well, now we'd like to hear it. I mean,
Why are we censoring ourselves?
don't whet our appetites and not
She
give.
said her teacher for some reason keeps vetoing various books she wants to read. She's been reading like the novels that our au pair reads. I suppose they're like romance novels. I don't know. Maybe I should care more about what she reads, but I know nobody cared what I read when I was in 6th grade. So, I mean,
I didn't read when I was in. I mean, who?
What kind of books? Like those?
I don't know. Maybe there's sex in them. I don't know. I mean, she's in 6th grade.
There's for sure sex in them.
Yeah, but I mean, she's gonna be 12. Is she too young to read about sex? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if she is or she isn't, but there's.
Well, the Diary of Anne Frank, I think, has some sexual stuff.
They cut that back in. It had been, but anyway, so she's complaining about the teacher, like just not letting her read this book now. And she's like, well, maybe I should suggest a trans book. Because like she's like she intuits that like if she implies in any way that she's having questions about trans or her sexuality or whatever it is, then the teacher would be like caught like in a deer in headlights, would be afraid to tell her that she can't read it. And I said, well, this is a wonderful example of the backlash that's already beginning to happen. That these little kids, they see what's going on. They see how everybody's catering to a certain thing. They see what happens when they mention a certain subject. Everybody kind of gets scared about it. So she's like, maybe I should just read a trans book. Then she'll have no choice to let me read it. It's hilarious.
I mean,
that is interesting.
Yeah.
To go back to something you were saying before, what bothers me about this whole trend is that I am not allowed to do certain characters because I'm not. I had a Jessica and I were doing this funny character, but the person who called me about unemployment insurance, and they happen to be Indian, and there's not one joke about their race, so they just have an accent. And I had the guys. I laughed, but then I realized that I shouldn't be laughing. And I go, you can't get buyer's remorse. You laughed. That's it. There's no more discussion. And the fact that I'm not
Why shouldn't you be laughing?
No, it was funny. He said it was funny, but
oh.
then he later thought about it. He went, well, actually, that's kind of race. I'm like, why is it racist? Because I have the ability to do an accent? What's racist about it? I don't understand. Well, I said, they're the head of the department. They're the highest status. There's not one ethnic joke in there. They're just impatient.
You sure you're not January 6th white?
Yeah.
Well, when I
you meant like 11:59 January 5th white?
No, but then the idea, and then I was talking to a guy. He said, gay people have to play gay, and I said, well, does that mean gay people can't play straight? Does that mean non-Jews play? And then that whole idea of only people who are Bryan Cranston played someone who was in a wheelchair, and it was wrong. And I was like, this has gotten out of hand. It's nuts.
I see these clips from Family Guy on I don't really watch Family Guy. I mean, it's a great show. I just never watched it, but I'm shocked, and I don't know how old these clips are, and whether they could get away with it or they would do it today. These Family Guy clips, it's astounding. There's this one where this Chinese guy comes over to the Griffin's house and the dog, Brian the dog, and he's like, Brian's scared because the Chinese people eat dogs, according to the stereotype. So the Chinese
stereotype. I think that's a true fact.
Well, it may well be in China, not in America. So the Chinese guy comes over and goes, "When we eat dog." And Brian's like, he goes, "No, I'm kidding. Asians are known for our senses of humor and our huge genitalia and our love of and our respect for white people." And I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable.
I shouldn't have laughed at that.
That's really
Can't play yourself.
unbelievable. I don't know how old that
Patrice
clip
did
is.
his whole bit about seeing a documentary about them eating dog in China.
Well, be that as it may, it's astounding what they like. If I did
and by the way, what are they ashamed of? We eat pigs.
if I did that on stage, that same character, I don't know if I could get away with it.
You can't get away with it.
So I don't know if it's because
don't
Family
know.
Guy is a cartoon. And,
Well, South Park
or,
still does it too.
Yeah, or
They're grandfathered in.
I guess they're grandfathered in. I don't know, but it's just unbelievable the shit that I see, the racial shit that I see, that the racial humor that they do on Family Guy.
I mean, it has to be nuanced, but I think it's it can get really it's a minefield. It's a minefield, and that's what I get. I get like, hey, I agree with certain things, but I'm like, leave your politics out of our art. You know what I mean? That's my biggest gripe. It's like, if you're gonna come to a comedy show, you can not like something, change a channel, not like it without trying to ruin someone's employment. That's an option too. I can
You still
change
have to
channel.
deal with the audience as you find them. So you may be outraged that the audience is horrified by your impression of an Indian.
I don't do it anymore.
But you
I
still
don't
have
do
to.
it.
You still have to deal with the fact that the market has spoken.
No, I don't do it anymore because I went. The juice is not worth the squeeze, right?
It's not worth the squeeze.
The juice is not worth the squeeze. So I went. I'm going to shelf this. There's certain jokes that I put away that I brought back that are fine now. But for those 2 years that everyone wasn't working and people were nuts, you had to take things and go, all right.
I'm going to give you the answer.
And then let's wrap it up because, we try to keep it concise.
Wait, we have the answer. Hold on. Aha, that's the answer.
Dramatic pause. I think we're dealing with a mass pornography, you know it when you see it type situation in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, technically, it doesn't seem fair that a straight person can't play a gay person, but the gay person can play a straight person. But yet, there is an emotional reality to why many people feel that way. Well, because seeing a gay person, playing a flamboyant person, it feels
a straight person playing
a straight person. It can feel like mocking, and there's a history of seeing
and there's
people be
bullying.
mocked,
Got it.
and you can't insulate your mind from making the associations with the mocking as you're watching that character, as you're watching George Clooney, who is straight, playing a gay person. These things are all real.
Like Robin Williams in The Birdcage.
Right, Robin Williams' Birdcage. But for some reason, that was deemed acceptable. But again, that's the kind of thing. Again, you know when you see it.
But Nathan Lane was far like Robin Williams wasn't really that gay in The Birdcage.
Right, but this is all making my point. Like,
Was he?
Yeah, he was.
compared to Nathan Lane, no.
No, I think Robin Williams played the.
He played the relatively masculine gay guy.
Did he? Was that what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. So anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that the emotional content, all these reactions are not bullshit. They are real, and they have real associations, and there really is a you know it when you see it type thing that. And the point of that argument that what was it Powell made about pornography is that there's just no way to write down a standard which can define this. It just doesn't exist. It defines human reason. We cannot write down some set of rules that is perfectly consistent that would say, okay, well, let's just consult these rules. Oh, yes, you can do this. You say, wait a second, you said you can do that, but that's not okay. But you said you can't do that, but that is okay.
Right.
So we're grappling with this as a society, and we're going to continue to grapple with it. And it's easy to score cheap points in any direction on this. So I guess what I'm saying is that it was much easier when America was basically 90% white.
Yeah. No, I think to your point, like what I said, nuance.
Let me just correct that. I'm actually being provocative but facetious. That this is the complexity of having a very, very multi-ethnic, accepting society, that we're going to have to grapple with these issues. These issues were not difficult when the minorities were a tiny percentage and everybody was straight, as it were, right? Quotation. So this is not necessarily a sign that we're bad that we're grappling with. We're trying to do the right thing.
Right, and I think what your point is when you're saying when you like pornography, I think it's nuance. I see the difference between hacky Long Island racist guy doing racial material, going that feels ugh, because you can tell they're coming from a versus like, let's say,
let's not besmirch Nassau and Suffolk, the great people of Nassau and Suffolk counties.
Okay, I'm doing the hypocritical, I'm just making sweeping stereotypes based on geographical locations. I get it. But point being is that when I would see, let's say Jessica Curson, for example, does something, I can tell there's a loving celebration in it, and it's not, quote unquote, this sort of thing. You can tell the difference.
You know it when you see it, but someone else thinks it's pornography.
Right, but it's also like it's a button, so they're going, and they're it's like ready, fire, aim, where you don't go, wait a minute, let me go, because it happens. It happens to people where they get thrown through this like sort of thing where the pitchforks are in their lawn, and you're going, and everyone comes out, and the truth comes out, going, this is not the person, wrong person. January 1st, white, not January 6th.
January 5th.
5th.
11:59 p.m. January 5th. That's what you are. That's how white you are.
Dan, any last thoughts?
No, I think that Noam put a decent bow on the whole conversation. I think we can wrap things up. Thank you, Richard. TikTok sensation Richard Aronovitch.
You just find me by Rich is Funny, because I no one can spell my last name.
Rich is funny.
One word. No space. It's just Rich is Funny.
That's all. Rich is funny. That's all I got to say. Rich is funny. Periel Ashenbrand, her books On My Knees and The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own, available on Amazon.
Wait, say that a little faster.
The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own and On My Knees.
Okay.
Both are memoirs, I guess. Or,
They are.
okay.
It's funny. Her husband trusted George W. Bush much more than his wife's Bush.
They are available where books are sold. Noam Dorman, every Monday, come see Noam and his merry band of musicians, 9 p.m. till midnight every Monday at the Olive Tree Cafe.
Maybe the best thing at the Comedy Cellar sometimes. You know that. I don't mean to say that.
You mean
I mean that on a very high level. Like, the comedians are fantastic, but some of those guys that play and sing on Monday nights, they're fucking amazing.
They are, but it's very different.
Different.
It's
than what?
apples and oranges.
You're comedy to music. It's very different. I like the music.
You're saying you
but
feel the level of music is, and you may be right, is higher than the level of comedy.
I'm saying that the level, like Nick and Colin and Sasha Allen, who sings with the Stones, and these people are at the same level, if not even squeaking above comparatively to their peers. as the comedians at the Comedy Cellar are to the comedy.
I thought you were comparing the musicians to the comedians, and I went, "That's a
No,
whole
I'm saying
different-
like that's how good.
they're phenomenal. I will say that, and I will be playing with you guys Monday night.
You're playing
You're
playing harmonica
in the key of F.
In the Kiev F. Yeah.
You're playing harmonica.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Rich is an accomplished harmonicist.
Yes, I used to do this. I've been doing this for years, and I'm like more excited about this than
Every week, somebody that comes on Monday night comes to us. Sometimes one who says, "This is the best live music I've ever heard in my life," and more than once. And just last week, I got this text message of somebody just like saying how I was watching, and then I looked over at my wife, and she was just full on weeping, just full of tears at what was going on. Like it's amazing the response that we got.
that's beautiful.
And they do play some original music. It's mostly covers.
Yeah.
But-
And the mandolin.
And of course, Noam on guitar, mandolin, and he does some vocals. He does vocals on "I've Seen a Face." And
I sing harmony all the time.
Do you take requests?
Yes.
Baby got back.
No, I can't.
so anyway, thank you everybody. Podcast at comedycellar.com for comments, suggestions, and so on, constructive or destructive criticism. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.